Sam Stove and Bridget Duclos with you on the summer edition of the Daily Drive. Now, Bridget, I know you went out to dinner last night and something appalling happened.
It was an appalling evening. There is no doubt about it. Now, before I tell you what happened, I just want to make something very clear. I am a mother and I like children.
Right.
Okay.
Got it. Established.
Got it? Right.
Clear.
So much so am I a mother and I like children that I was out for dinner with my children.
All right.
Because I think I've told you 100 times this week, it's probably getting boring that my son is going overseas tonight for a year.
This was his farewell dinner.
Farewell dinner.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. So we really wanted to, have a good chat, and we had booked ourselves into a lovely Chinese restaurant we love, and off we went. Well, we got there, and within probably 15 minutes of Charlie ordering every dumpling and fried bit of food on the menu, he clearly thinks they don't have Chinese food in England, this baby, there was another table, a big table of people, and there was a young child who would have been about 3 and a baby.
Oh,
anyway, the baby started screaming. Now, the mother got up and rocked it, and that was fine. The baby went back to sleep. But then the toddler started up and had a full-on tantrum, scream, 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 scream. Now, instead of what I would have done is take that child straight out of the restaurant. But instead of that, they were all trying to soothe the child. While the mother's rocking the baby, everyone else was trying to soothe this child. And she got worse and worse, as kids do when they're having tantrums. And I've got to be honest with you, it totally destroyed our night.
Yeah.
It was so unsettling. And I took kids to, I took my kids when they were little to restaurants and to places perhaps where they were a bit annoying, but I never let them go on like that. And I just think, what do we do about this? I mean, it's not fair to go out for an expensive meal, really, is it?
No.
And have it ruined by somebody else's child when the mother just can't control her.
Not when there are family restaurants that can cater for toddlers
like
and
McDonald's.
things for them to do, things for them to colour in. If you're in a quite a nice Chinese restaurant that's a place designed for adults, it does seem a little bit selfish on behalf of this mother who, look, was in a terrible position. Don't begrudge her for that. But
it's awful when your child has a tantrum, no doubt about it. But the best thing you can do is just get them out of there.
Yeah. Well, I know that there are some cafes who decide to go child-free. I'm sure there are some restaurants that sort of frown at bringing children along. And it must go on a lot within the food industry. So let's pick the brains of Christine Green. She's a food industry expert and undoubtedly would have experienced something like this before she joins us on the program. G'day, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, how you going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Am I being unreasonable?
Okay, so I also want to state very clearly, I'm the mother of 4 kids and I've dragged them to many restaurants and cafes, and I also have 3 grandkids under 5.
Okay.
So I am child-friendly myself.
Yeah.
Look, I have an opinion on it, and I also have what I see sort of trending in the industry. And what I've seen with when it comes to fine dining restaurants, the numbers are on the decrease.
Yep.
And we actually see more success with restaurants that do cater for kids and families.
Yep.
Because there's a very good demographic with families that, with busy lifestyles, 2 working parents, they are eating out more. So there's certainly a market there to attract and to fulfil. So if your restaurant or cafe is going to cater to those children, you're going to quite happily take their money. Fine dining tends to not cater for the kids, so the kids can get bored and it gets a bit hairy. And I think you hit the nail on the head before. If it comes down, if there's something for the kids to do, they tend to be a bit more well-behaved. So parental supervision varies from adult to adult, of course. But kids... There's good kids and there's not so good kids, but pretty much all of them have an attention span that can be regarded as well-behaved if they've got something to do. So
of course.
You see, and those that cater for the kids and they have paper tablecloths or paper tablecloths with crayons and things like that, you'll usually find the kids beavering away and colouring in, and at least they can give you about 20 minutes of sanity. And my kids weren't perfect, trust me.
No, nor mine.
No, nobody's are, but there does become a scenario like this where if your kids are having a night where they're not perfect, they become a real imposition to the entire restaurant, because those tantrums, I mean, you could be the next building over and you're still going to hear that kid screaming. Is it legal for restaurants to say, we do not allow children into our restaurant?
Look, I don't know about the legalities of that.
Right.
I haven't researched the topic enough to bring that to this discussion.
Yeah, sure.
But what I would like to say is that if you build a business model and it's pitched to a certain market and you've got a dress code but you've also got a conduct code. I don't see why that's a problem. If you've got a restaurant that wants to cater for people that don't bring children, go for it.
Look, it's such an awkward thing, isn't it? Because, I mean, it's nice to go out for dinner with your kids, big or little. There's no doubt about that. But I think my problem was I felt like getting this woman and saying, you know, get your kid under control, which, of course, you can't do, can you?
And you think from the restaurateur's point of view, do they go over and approach that parent and say, hey, your kid's
No.
that bad, you're going to have to leave?
Yeah.
You just can't do that to somebody because they could be quite a good customer into the future.
But I might just step in.
Thing, isn't it?
I'll step in for a sec there. I would almost expect a good restaurateur to step in. That's where you have the burden of being the boss, of owning the establishment. Where if you've got one customer who, it's no fault of their own, it's a bored child. Look, it's a tough position to be in. But if it is causing a ruckus like this one was in Bridges Restaurant last night, as a responsible restaurant owner who cares for the well-being of the other paying customers in there, shouldn't they do something? And I think, wouldn't that perhaps put the minds at ease of the other customers if they can see the restaurant owner at least trying to mitigate the situation?
This has actually come up before a number of times, and it's in Brisbane. It actually hit the social media circuit. I should have, I didn't have enough time to research it.
Oh, that's okay.
There was an incident that popped up with a family that were evicted from a restaurant. They lodged a whole bunch of online complaints, and it got quite nasty, and there was the fors and against. You know, so that restaurant owner was popular on the one hand, but very unpopular on the other. So again, I think if your restaurant is pitched and geared towards a certain demographic, and it's very clear what that demographic is, you're going to attract the right clientele, and everybody's going to be happy.
Well, do you know what it brings up a question too, which I know isn't your area, Christine, but it's a good one to think of. Is what do you do if you pay for a business class flight? And you end up next to a baby. Now, mothers have got a right to fly business class with their babies, but if you're the one sitting next to them, God almighty, having to pay that amount to be upset or not. Interesting.
Oh, I look the other way when I see families coming towards me.
I run.
I don't make eye contact.
I know.
Well, Christine, look, it's been great chatting with you. Thanks for sharing
you.
your insights on this topic. Look, it's a hard one. You feel for the parents, you feel for the restaurateurs.
But Sam, do you know what it comes down to? It's parenting, and there's nothing you can do about other people's parenting at the end of the day. Right. And whether it be on a plane, in a restaurant, wherever, it's just that horrific feeling of, oh my God, look after your kid.
Yeah, Christine Green.
Any business model that attracts the public is going to have the same issue.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Christine. Christine's a food industry expert, sharing some of her insights there from an owner's perspective.
She's an owner user, yes, an owner operator, I should say. And may I say, my kids had some of the worst tantrums I've ever seen. They are the most unpleasant thing to deal with.
Oh, I can imagine.
And that was just last year.
Look, that's right. 17-year-olds are just so moody. Look, you hit the nail on the head a second ago, Bridge, when you said it just comes down to parenting. Now, it might be that this mother's parenting strategy with her toddler is to ignore, was it him?
Oh, I couldn't tell.
Ignore him or her completely when they're having a tantrum.
Which is what you're meant to do.
Let them cry it out.
Yeah.
But don't subject everybody else in a busy restaurant to your parenting choices. To me, that's quite extraordinary.
Oh, it is. It's completely extraordinary. And you're right. That is what you're meant to do with a child who's having a tantrum. That's exactly what they would tell you to do. But not on someone else's time.
Now, bear in mind that I don't have children, so look,
you'll be good at it when you do.
Look, maybe so. With these hard and fast rules, with this moral compass of mine, I'll be able to navigate those waters bravely and expertly. But I would support any business who has the gumption to come out and say, listen, on these nights per week we're child-free. On planes, certain flights are designated child-free flights, just for the very reason that some people don't want to have to deal with your kids.
That's right.
Am I being immature here? Am I being
no? Look, you're not being. No, you're not.
Too harsh.
You're not being immature. I do think you're not being immature at all. But I do think when you have kids, it changes a bit because you realise when you're in a position, like that. But I think it's fair enough that everybody should have the right to have an environment which isn't being ruined by a screaming child. I don't know. What do people think about it?
Well, 13 12 83. Time to hit the phones and tell us about it.
Let us know.
Would you support a restaurant who had a child-free policy? Now, it might not be child-free every night of the week.
No.
It could just be that Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays and Saturdays are child-free, and Sundays at lunch.
Or early. Like,
Yeah.
actually, that's a good point because, this was at 8:30, 8:45 at night.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what 3-year-olds up then anyway? They shouldn't be.
Yeah, true. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think I'm being unreasonable? Do I
No.
need to just realise that these are children, that they have every right to experience the world the same way that we do, within reason?
And if you're 3 years old and you're having a tantrum, ring us now.
13 12 83. Or if you feel like having a bit of fun with this, what was the worst tantrum your child ever threw?
Oh, is your mum around? Could she ring us?
I distinctly remember there being one where I wasn't allowed to go on, when you're at a little suburban shopping centre?
the little movie
The little
thing.
cars that you put 30 cents in or 50 cents or whatever it was, and it's got a hydraulic arm. And
Yes.
I cracked it royally one day because I
funny.
wasn't allowed to go on that.
That and the claw are the two that used to make my kids cry.
13 12 83 is the number. Give us a call.